Relax, sit back as we fill your mind with spooky true crime stories of the deranged, unhinged, and absolute pure evil murders that will blow your mind. Some places we will visit to show you around and educate you on the history. Other times we will bring you to the paranormal because the dead never lie silent for too long.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna get fucking killed. Hello? Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole? Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello. Hopefully everybody's doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Gina, you're in a different place today.
I am. I'm looking really tired. I keep looking at myself like, oh.
Oh, you look so good.
I know I was gonna put like a filter, like a, I don't know, like a teddy bear or rabbit filter or something.
No, it looks good. But
Yeah.
today we have to Zoom because Gina's not in the same city as me right now. She's a couple hours away from me.
I am. I'm gonna be here for a while, so you might see, and I'll probably like progressively get worse looking and worse, worse looking, more tired and more tired and more tired. So yeah, I'm not at home. I am with my uncle who is on hospice and is passing, and so I am taking care of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm not home, and so hence the way that I look. I've been up for hours on end. So
Oh,
yeah.
well,
But I'm here.
yes, you are. I'm so happy you're here. So today we're diving into the story of Susan Smith
Yeah.
because I know Gina's really super busy. So we're going to get started on it. So this one is a tragic, tragic story, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it already. And I know
Yeah.
that we've covered other stories regarding parents who, or mothers in particular, who have murdered their own children. And it's
Yeah.
really sad that this happens. And it's especially sad. And I'm not a doctor or anything to know the background of Susan Smith or anything, but I'm sure we're going to touch on it. But the things that happen after women have children and
Yeah.
the mental state they're in. And I just really think that more women need help in these situations, and we need to take mental health more seriously.
Yeah. And there wasn't like a whole lot about her having postpartum because they actually did like in this special that I watched, they actually did like kind of compared her to Andrea Yates. And they said, like, as far as Andrea Yates goes, like they were told, like she was told not to have children. She was told all of these things,
Yeah.
where with Susan Smith, like that wasn't the case. Like I don't think there was much mention of like postpartum at all.
Yeah.
She
I didn't,
definitely did have mental issues, like that's a given. Um yeah, so I'm not real sure as far as like the postpartum thing, if that was came into play.
yeah, I didn't know too. And I'm wondering if this is, you know, there wasn't a lot of talk about it as time went
Yeah.
on, and more, this was happening more and more. Of course, the subject became more prominent, but
Hmm.
I just really feel like it wasn't really something that was mentioned because there wasn't a lot known about it
Yeah.
also too at the
Sorry,
time.
guys.
People were talking about it.
I'm gonna try to move you guys. There we go.
Oh.
Sorry.
So on October 25th, 1994, around 8:45 p.m. in Union County, South Carolina, a 911 call came in from a person that lived near John D. Long Lake, stating that a woman is at their door. She is hysterical, saying that she was carjacked while at a red light, and the man kidnapped her two sons. This description of the vehicle was a 1990 Burgundy Mazda Protege. Right.
Yeah.
The police dispatched two officers to the residence. When they arrived, the owner of the home, Shirley McLeod, was there with Susan Smith. Susan said that she was at a red light A black man jumped in her car, held her at gunpoint, and told her to drive. He then told her to stop the car and get out, and he took off with the two children, Michael, 3 years old, and Alexander, 14 months. Susan was said to be hysterically crying. Her hair was in disarray, and she kept putting her hands over her face when the officers were asking her more questions about what happened. They went back to the station where the sheriff showed up. Susan asked to go to the restroom. She stayed there for about 10 minutes and then came out. She had no tears, had fixed her hair, and her demeanor had completely changed. The county immediately started a search for the two boys. They sent a forensic sketch artist to meet with Susan and drew up a picture from her description of the man who she claimed carjacked her. The authorities felt like something wasn't right with the way Susan was acting. 2 days later, on October 27th, the FBI, yep, those are what we do in our jobs.
You've been at work.
I know. Oh my goodness. The FBI.
Just for people who don't know, that's something that we deal with at work, and
Yeah,
special education is an FBA.
It's a functional behavior assessment for students. No, this is the FBI though, which she probably needed an FBA.
She needed an FBA.
So 2 days later, on October 27th, the FBI gave her a polygraph test. The test indicated that she was lying when asked if she knew where her children were. Susan said that she was nervous because she had been having a relationship with one of her ex-boyfriend's friends. The more her story started to unfold, the more the authorities started to doubt her. I just wonder where these women think they're going to get away with it. Like, these people come with these stories.
Telling you, it's crazy. Like, I just want to, I don't want to be inside their mind because I don't want to feel what they feel, but I just wonder, like, are they like bargaining with their self, or like what's happening like during this time? Like, oh yeah, I could probably get away with that, or yeah, that'll probably work. Like, what does that sound like?
Yeah. And I don't understand, like, there's other options out there. You
Yeah,
know,
oh yeah.
and give your kids to the foster care system. You can relinquish your rights as a
And
parent.
I don't think a lot of people know that too, I think people just automatically think that, it's a bad thing to do that, but in all reality, it's the best thing that you could do.
Oh, definitely. If the alternative is murder.
Yeah.
So they continued to bring in suspects who matched the description. Then one of the detectives thought that Susan might have driven her car in John D. Long Lake, which was very close to the area that she said the carjacker forced her out. During the second day of the search, divers dragged the lake, but found nothing. They only searched 30 to 35 feet out past the boat ramp because they didn't feel like the car would have gone out much further than that. On October 28th, Susan refused to talk to anyone anymore except for Sheriff Wells, who was a close friend of her brother Scott. David Caldwell, an FBI-trained behavioral specialist, told his superiors that Susan's actions were those of a guilty person. On October 29th, Sheriff Wells persuaded Susan to take a second polygraph test, which would be conducted by Pete Logan. Pete interviewed Susan for 5 consecutive days. During these interviews, Susan told him about all of her boyfriends and that she and her husband David had separated many times, and that this caused her to have a lot of anxiety, emotional problems, and that she felt mentally abused by her husband. She had just recently filed for divorce because she claimed that her husband had been cheating. However, when they looked into things, Susan was the one that had a long history of cheating. She had been having a relationship with a man named Tom Finley, who was the son of the man who owned the company she worked for. She said that Tom was very intelligent and very well off. Susan said that Tom had just recently ended things with her when he found out that she was married. Oh, Tom was a smart man.
Right.
Tom said that he would keep the affair quiet, but had to cut things off with her. After doing that, Susan told Tom that she was also having an affair with his father. Susan said that just a few days before the carjacking, that her husband David had her phone tapped and that he knew all about the affairs she had been having. On October 30th and 31st, divers went back to John D. Long Lake for a second time. They only found mud and beer cans. The search was temporarily suspended while the polygraph interview was being done. The 3 questions asked to Susan were: 1, are you intentionally lying about the carjacking? 2, are you intentionally lying about the black man taking your car? And 3, are you intentionally withholding information concerning the whereabouts of your children? On the 3rd day of the interview, Susan didn't show up. Logan called her at home and convinced her to come back to the station. He also told her to write a statement in her words detailing everything that happened. On November 1st, Susan and David Smith released a written statement saying, "We can only hope and pray that the man who took our precious babies can find it somewhere in his heart to return them safely." The following day, Susan gave Logan a 6-page statement detailing everything that happened during the carjacking. During this time, an officer came in to speak with detectives and told him that the light she said she was at when she was carjacked only turns red if there was cross traffic. And Susan said that there were no witnesses there. The only person there was the man that carjacked her. It was then that officers were certain that Susan wasn't telling the truth. They then asked Susan to drive with them to the intersection where the carjacking took place. On the drive there, Susan told the officer that her and her stepfather had at one time had a relationship, and he would come in her room and touch her sexually while she pretended to be asleep. That confirmed to Logan that Susan was able to keep secrets. On November 2nd, Logan told Susan they were concerned because there would have been no way the light would have turned red if there wasn't anyone else in the intersection. He then told her that there were some things in a written statement that he found to not be true. He asked her if she was sure that it was the place the carjacking happened. After a few minutes, she said that it didn't happen in Union. It happened in Carlisle. She said the reason she lied was because she was meeting a man that she didn't want them to know her exact location. So they drive to Carlisle and she takes him to an intersection where she says the carjacking happened and points to a dirt road and tells them that is where the man drove off with the children. On November 3rd, between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., Susan and David gave interviews to 3 television networks. The officers watched all 3 of them and noticed that it appeared she was faking her emotions. That afternoon, Susan left her mother's home telling her that she had something to take care of. A police officer was sent to pick her up and take her to a secret location. When the agent picked her up, he said that Susan was very manipulative and was laughing and joking with him the whole time. He drove her to a church away from the press and out of sight to interview her for the 5th time. He decided that since she was comfortable with Sheriff Wells, they would have him come in and interview her. During the interview, he told her that she had already been caught lying one time and it didn't look good, and he needed her to tell him the truth. Susan dropped to the floor and started crying and screaming and confessed to him that she put her 2 sons in the car and rolled the car into the lake. Wow. Going
Yeah.
back and forth with the lie, I mean, and when they said that she was being manipulative and laughing and joking, it kind of reminded me about another mother who they're on the fence about, killing, who sprayed the silly string at her son's graves um during their birthday. I guess, their birthday, one of the boys, his birthday was a week later, and
Mhm.
I'm hoping I can remember her name, but she sprayed, maybe you might know, she sprayed the silly string on the grave, laughing and singing happy birthday to the boys. And that's when the cops knew, like, okay, we got her. She's the one who killed him, because
Yeah.
she claimed an intruder came into her home and stabbed
Wow.
her and her 2 boys. I'll get the name before the end of this, but yeah, it's gonna bother me, but it kind
I
of
thought
reminds me of
I thought
that
it was kind of
reaction.
I thought it was kind of weird too that the authorities that they had a feeling that the boys were in the lake. I thought that was weird. Like,
Yeah, like they already had that idea that they would search the lake even before.
yeah. I mean the place, like the lady's house that she went to, um and that called 911 was super close to that lake, but like I don't know what would make them be like, "Oh, the kids are in the lake." Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that's weird.
yeah, but I mean, maybe based on that it's nearby and where the
Yeah,
intersection
I
was,
don't know. Yeah, I mean,
why
it's
they would
really
think
weird.
that.
And that town of Union is like a really small town, and like they don't see much crime like this and stuff like that. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Just it just stood out to me like, oh wow, that's an odd thing.
that they already knew.
They would
The one,
suspect.
the one that I was taught, Darley Router Reuter, Routier, Darlie. Oh my goodness. Do you guys remember her face?
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, we'll have to do a story on her
We'll
because
do a story on her too.
she's another interesting one. But okay.
All right. So during the interview, Susan told the sheriff that she wanted to die and that she didn't deserve to live. She said she should have stayed in the car with them. And when the car started rolling into the water, she started screaming for someone to help her stop it. Since nobody was around, she ran to the closest house and asked for help. The police then put her in a helicopter and flew over the lake so she could point out exactly where the car was. When the information was announced on the news, there was a reporter at David Smith's grandmother's home doing an interview. The cameras captured her emotional reaction to the murders. So they were interviewing the father of the boys,
Yeah.
Susan's husband. They were interviewing his grandmother. Like the news was there to do like an in-home interview with her. And it just so happened at that time it came on the news that they had found like the car and stuff like that. And so they were recording her. They actually have it like on video of them telling her that, Susan is the one that did this and blah, blah, blah. And it's so sad. She just breaks down and she's like, no, like, I can't believe she would do something like this. Like it was so sad. I
Yeah.
just I can't imagine. So on November 5th, hundreds of people stood in line to pay their respects at the wake of Michael and Alex. On November 6th, 1,000 people attended the funeral services. Susan was prohibited from attending and sat in prison. The two boys were buried together in one casket. So they were buried in the same casket, which I thought was so sad. I mean, I guess that's good, but still, it's just so sad. On January 16th, 2005, solicitor Tommy Pope said he would seek the death penalty against Susan Smith. David Smith, the husband, was in agreement. There was concern that she would not get a fair trial because of all the media coverage. On June 30th, 2005, Judge William Howard banned cameras from the courtroom. On July 11th, Susan was found competent to stand trial by a psychiatrist, but he advised that she not be asked to take the stand during the trial because she was suffering from severe depression and had become suicidal. The psychiatrist said that she would ask for the death penalty. They believe that she was orchestrated by the defense, so Susan Smith would never be able to be cross-examined. So it was just, I mean, they were trying to set them up, I think. On July 15th, a jury of 9 men and 3 women were selected with 2 alternates. People in the community were in an uproar and didn't want to hear about how difficult Susan's life was or her trying to make excuses for what she had done. Some of the jurors said they would have a hard time giving her the death penalty. The defense was trying to prove that Susan's actions were the result of a very horrible upbringing and that she was acting out of her head. So, like, I mean, can only imagine what the outside of the courthouse looked like. But, people were just so upset about all of this happening. They were just like, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear what she has to say. We don't want to hear what she has to blame it on. I don't care. There's plenty of people out there in the universe that have had a horrible upbringing and they're not killing their kids.
Exactly.
So, it was just people were irate. So
Yeah.
on July 18th, during opening arguments, prosecutor Keith Geis said Miss Smith looked America in the eye and lied. Defense attorney Judy Clark said that Susan Smith snapped. Tom Finley, the man she was having an affair with, was a key witness, a key state witness. 8 days before the drownings, he wrote Susan a letter stating that he didn't think they were suited for each other and that he did not want children. So they think that because of that, that she felt like, okay, this is what I have to do to be able to, I guess, I don't know. I mean,
Because
I,
'cause he's the only last man on earth.
right?
Like,
I'm like, what is this guy? Like, I don't understand. Like, if somebody were to say, I don't want you, okay, good, bye. You
thank
don't
you.
have to have them then. They're not yours, they're mine. Bye.
Thank
Like, be
you.
gone. Yeah, I don't get it. So in opening statements, prosecutors said that Finley would provide a motive for the murders, saying that Susan was trying to win him over by getting rid of her children. Tom Finley testified that Susan told him she had sex with his father, Carrie. He also said Susan seemed to be suicidal the day she drowned her children. So I think she was just in a horrible mental state, you know?
Yeah.
Susan told an FBI agent that she drove her car to the water with the children in the back, released the parking brake, and never looked back. So again, her story changed. She didn't go run for help. She didn't try to stop it. She didn't, she just didn't. But my thing is, like, you're at a boat ramp. You don't have a boat. You're in a car. There's nobody around that just sees you roll your car into the lake.
Yeah, I don't know what time of day this is. I don't know what's going on, but yeah,
Odd
but
to me.
some of the pictures, like I remember this story back, when it happened, and it just seemed like it was not very populated, like the part of the lake.
Right. No, it's not. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really small town, but I just feel like, especially small towns like that, I feel like if they have a lake or something like that, that's kind of like the hangout, like where people hang out at. And I don't know, I just thought it was weird. Like you just go there and roll your car in a lake
Yeah,
and
no one sees
nobody
it.
sees anything. Like, I don't know. So I have no idea. It struck me as very strange. So, on July 21st, Dr. Seymour Halleck testified that Susan Smith concealed a serious mental illness similar to her father's. In 1978, her father committed suicide. When Susan was 13 years old, she also attempted to take her own life by overdosing on aspirin, then again at 18. So, obviously, she's had mental illness, she's had problems mentally for a long time. And it's sad. It's horrible. So the school that she went to recommended for her to get help, but her mother refused her to get help. Her mom said no, she doesn't need the help. So could you imagine being 13, 14, 15, 16 years old and like just wanting to die and needing help and your mom's telling you no, you can't have help? Like that's terrible.
Yeah.
But again, no reason to kill your children.
Yeah, I was gonna, and
No reason to kill you.
why not yourself? Why your children?
Yeah, it just doesn't. And I think that, she probably thought if she told her story, like, oh yeah, um, excuse me, I was gonna do this to myself too. Like, you thought that was gonna get you,
That's gonna be okay.
that people were gonna feel bad for you. Like, it doesn't work that way, lady. So on July 22nd, she was convicted on 2 counts of murder. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. I think when there's children involved, there's just there's no leniency. Like it just doesn't work that way. The
Doesn't take long.
prosecution, no, the prosecution got a car like the one that Susan drove and did a reenactment to show the jury exactly what the children saw as they were drowning. There was a video camera mounted between the two seats. The vehicle took about 6 minutes to fully submerge. In order to show the jury this video, the judge had to approve it. So they had to show the judge this reenactment they did, and it was awful. You can find it online, and it literally feels like you're in the car, and it's just like you see the water just slowly rising and right. It's awful. It's so terrible. So while playing the video for the judge, Susan and her attorney were in the courtroom, and apparently they were giggling and passing notes back and forth to each other as they were showing, but there were no jurors there. This was just in front of the judge. So they were, not a care in the world. When the jury came into the courtroom and was shown the video, Susan put her hands over her face and pretended to cry. So David Smith cried on the witness stand as he talked about his sons. Susan said, "I'm so sorry, David," and then she was led from the courtroom. Um, the interviews that this man has done are just heartbreaking to see how this all has affected him. I mean, I feel like in cases like this, you have no idea until you're in it. You can't even imagine what it
Yeah.
must feel like, you know? So prosecutors said that David's testimony was the most gut-wrenching thing they'd ever heard, and they had to cut their questions short because they weren't able to compose themselves. So obviously in court, like they're told, you need to keep it together, like don't show emotion, you're gonna sway the jurors, whatever. And so they literally had to cut their questioning short because they just couldn't, after listening to him, they couldn't do it. Susan's stepfather, Beverly Russell, took part of the blame for her actions. He testified, "My remorse goes way beyond sorrow, getting caught, or anything else." Susan was sexually abused by her stepfather from the time she was 13 years old. However, Susan and her mother chose to never press charges, and the abuse continued up until a few months before she killed her children.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah. So all the way through adulthood. And he's there, like
Yeah.
he's testifying and like still nothing's being done. Like I'm
Yeah.
confused. You know what I
I'm
mean?
there.
It doesn't make
Especially since he confessed, like you would think that
exactly
the state would prosecute.
do something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was very odd to me too. On July 28th, Susan was spared a death sentence and was given a life term. The jury took 2 hours for its unanimous verdict. David Smith said that he and his family were disappointed that the jury voted against the death penalty, but was glad that Susan was given life. On July 29th, 1995, Susan Smith began her life term at the Graham Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina. There is now a memorial at John D. Long Lake for the two children. People say that the lake will never be the same, and it will always be known as the lake where Susan Smith drowned her two children. Many people have said that since the murders, the lake is known to be haunted. On August 30th, 1996, 7 people accidentally drowned in the lake after they came to see the site where Susan drowned the children.
I did not even hear about this.
Yeah, I
It-
hadn't
it-
until I started to research it. But, like it kind of, I mean, it's kind of like, you and I have done that, gone to like certain sites and
Yes.
certain things like that to see, certain memorials and stuff like that. So this is like a news clipping that was done about this family. So 7 people, including 4 children, died in John D. Long Lake on Saturday night when they came to see the spot where Susan Smith drowned her 2 young sons in 1994. A murder that drew worldwide attention to the quiet town that has lured thousands to the lip of the lake. While Angela Blackwood Phillips, 22 years old, stood on the bluff above the water with friends, the vehicle with her husband and children inside rolled between the memorial markers. Literally rolled between, there's 2 markers that were there, like headstones kind of for the boys. It went right, their car rolled right between the 2 markers.
Okay. But were they asleep? Like, why didn't they stop the car?
So
That's okay. Go on.
yeah, so a young tree that was planted in Smith's boys' memories did not stop the moving vehicle, but toppled under its weight. So it took down a tree there too. The Chevrolet Suburban slid down the steep embankment into 20 feet of water
Oh,
on
it was like on a
on a,
bluff.
on a
So
decline.
they
Yeah,
couldn't stop it because it's like sliding, literally.
yeah. It wasn't rolling. I think it was
Was
just.
sliding. Oh, okay.
Unlike Susan Smith, who ran the other way while her children went into the lake, then lied for 9 days about them, Angie Phillips went after hers but couldn't save them. Her body was found inside the van where she apparently had loosened the seatbelts of some of the children but failed to free the others before she drowned. Her husband, Dennis Timothy Phillips, age 26, also died in the water. So did Carl Sidney White, 29, a friend who had dived in after the sinking Suburban. Divers found the vehicle about 80 feet from the shore, upside down, with the ignition and lights on and the gear shift in park. So they weren't even
They
driving.
weren't driving. Yeah.
Mhm. The doors were closed. One window was open. There was no sign that anyone had hit the brakes or tried to steer the vehicle away from the lake. The dead children were Courtney, 4 years old, Milana, 23 months, Kinsley, 4 months, all children of Tim and Angie Phillips, and 3-year-old Austin of South Carolina, whom White said was his girl. So the girlfriend was babysitting a baby also who passed. There were 3 survivors. White's girlfriend, Sonia Phillip, and her children, Ashley and Danielle, 11 and 12, watched it all happen. Philip ran with one of the girls to the highway where they flagged down a passing motorist to get help, but it was too late. The tragedy came as a morbid byproduct of the curiosity that has drawn countless visitors to the lake to place flowers, say prayers, or pose for pictures. I was like, yeah, that'd be us.
I know. That's scary. And it's scary to know that the car was so like just slid. Like, what do you do?
Nothing. There's nothing you can do. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that, like, I don't know, because if it's just rolling on its own, I guess if it's just like you just jump out. But if you have kids and you have all that, like, how do you get all those kids untangled? And like, I'm sure
Yeah,
everything is just going so fast.
that's
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So Philip told authorities that her group had come to the lake after a barbecue. It was about 9 p.m. and with no moon out, it was pitch black. And there was no lights in the area as it was the night of October 25th, 1994, when the Smith brothers, Michael and Alex, died. Tim Phillips stayed in the van with the younger children while everyone else got out to look at the memorials to the boys. He trained the lights of the van onto the markers. Suddenly the lights began to move. The next few hours were eerily reminiscent of those other drownings that still define Union for the people who don't live there. The 4 drivers called out to recover the bodies.
Divers.
What?
Where you said the four
Divers.
divers. The four
Can't e-
divers.
can't even see straight at this point. 4 divers called out to recover the bodies were among those who searched for Alex and Michael Smith. So it was the same people like searching. I can't even talk. Um, And so the one of the guys said he later testified about finding the sunken car. His first vision was little Alex's hand against the window. Could you imagine
No,
what
I
those boys felt like? What any of them like?
those
It's terrible.
divers are brave because I couldn't. I not in my wildest dream could I do a job like that.
Oh yeah,
That's like my fear, anyways. Is like even when I go into a lake or an ocean, like it's just
yeah,
so
crazy. Wells said it's not yet clear what happened. There were no skid marks on the grass and no real clues as to what caused the Suburban to roll. But the sheriff said there is also no evidence of any sinister motives behind their deaths, and all indications point toward a horrible accident. Wells, who knew the Smiths family, also felt personal weight of those murders, said it felt strange to be back at the same place, knowing that once again children had died there. But that's all he would say. So it's just, and of course people are going to run with that and be like, oh, it's haunted. I'm sure the spirits pulled him. I can't even imagine, you know.
I'm right there. I'm like, oh my goodness. But you know what? No, I wouldn't. You know what? I wouldn't go that far because my thing would be, I would think those boys would want to protect other children, not
Mhm.
necessarily.
Drag him in there with them.
Yeah, that would be my thought.
Yeah. So people started to question whether there was a supernatural force there. After that, the county moved the memorials that were put up for the boys. They put up a guardrail and closed off the boat ramp. Later, the lake was actually drained and rebuilt. Between 2000 and 2010, Susan was found guilty of sexual misconduct with 2 correctional officers.
This girl
She
does
also,
not stop. The jail
no,
won't even stop her.
no, she's like, I'm unstoppable, guys. Try to get me. She also
She's like,
lost
you know what? I'm
privilege.
just gonna keep being with these men. It's not.
Oh yeah, she don't care.
Hell, she don't care.
No. She also lost privileges for possessing narcotics and for self-mutilation. She was then transferred to Leith Correctional Facility in Greenwood, South Carolina. On July 21st, 2015, 20 years later, Susan wrote a letter to Harrison Cahill of the state newspaper saying, Mr. Cahill, I am not the monster society thinks I am. I am far from it. Something went wrong that night. I was not myself. Really? I was a good mother and I loved my boys. I had planned to kill myself first and leave a note behind telling them what had happened. Hold on, you were going to kill yourself first and then kill your boys? How does that happen if you're
No,
dead?
I think she was planning out, like, she's saying, like, oh, I wanted to kill myself and I wasn't even going to kill the boys. Like, I wanted
It
to kill
says
my,
first. She wrote this letter.
yeah, I think she meant, like, I wanted first, my first idea was to kill myself. I think that's the way she's like, that's
I
how
don't
I'm
know.
translating what she's trying to say, I guess.
I didn't believe I could face my family when the truth was revealed. Shortly after the murders, David Smith wrote a book called Beyond All Reason: My Life with Susan Smith. David has since remarried and is living 40 miles away from Union and has 2 children. Susan Smith will be eligible for parole November 4th, 2024. This is one of the reasons why I chose this story, is because that is quickly coming upon us, November 2024.
I don't think that's enough time. And even though she's coming up for parole, my guess is she's not going to be let out. That's what I'm hoping, I guess, for.
Yeah, so Susan has many admirers that she writes to and speaks with on the phone. In one recorded phone call, Susan tells the man that she would make a great stepmom and she could see herself around children. In 2022, she was dating a man. They spoke of their life together when she would be paroled, but they have since broken up. So she's out there. She's a fast girl. She's trying to get her she wants a relationship and she thinks she can be a good mom.
I'm just hoping nobody lets her out because she sounds just as crazy as the day she went in. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like she has not been, like, listening to what she's been up to since then. She has not been rehabilitated,
Nope.
and
No.
she needs the help. She needs that help.
Oh yeah.
Um
And like,
and Andrea Yates, who says,
oh yeah,
"I know that I'm available for, I can go up for parole, but I choose not to because I know
she
this is
knows.
the safest place for me to be."
Yeah, exactly.
It's scary
Exactly.
when they don't even realize who or what they are.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, can we just talk a second about Gypsy Rose? Like, what's happening?
I heard that she's getting
What's going on?
divorced from her man.
Yeah, and she's chilling with her ex that she was with before him. They got like matching tattoos or something.
I have not heard that. She got
Yeah.
matching tattoos with what ex-man that she's chilling
I
with?
think his name's Ken. The guy that she was with before the guy she's married to, she was with him, but they split up. So now she's talking to him again. They went and got like these matching tattoos or something like that. I,
What?
I don't know what's happening.
Oh, is something happening?
No. Just so you guys know, my aunt's losing her shit. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this episode. Anyway, um, yeah, I mean, we kind of all saw it coming. Like there, we obviously knew that this marriage wouldn't last, but for her to go back to this other guy, like,
Yeah.
oh man, we just said in the beginning, like, she just needs to get help for herself and like maybe not be in a relationship right now.
Focus
Just
on her.
yeah, she's got a lot going on. Like she's got a lot of years and years and years of damage to try to undo. I don't think that you ever undo stuff like that, but
I just can't believe she left the man that was giving it to her really good. Isn't that
that's
like one
what
of
I
the
said. Like, man, like I thought the D was good.
I thought the
You're
thank you.
not.
What is going on?
Yeah. Oof.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, I don't know, but
yeah, that's another one
I'd
we
love
want to
to
have.
hear I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on Gypsy, what's happening with her.
Please. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was this week's episode. And sorry for again the way I look. I told you I'm gonna look like this for a little while. It's gonna be
Oh,
a rough few weeks, guys.
okay. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you so much.
yeah, Yeah, thank you for watching. And if you would like to follow us on social media, we're 50 States of Madness on TikTok and Instagram. Pick up some merch at 50statesofmadness.bigcartel.com. We're at patreon.com/50 States of Madness. And obviously on YouTube, all podcast platforms. Thank you to all of our new subscribers here on YouTube. We really appreciate everybody's comments and everything. You guys are really, really nice, and you've been wonderful. They're very nice to read.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone's calling.
That was the bell. I tried to
Yeah.
catch it before I saw it
Time to
coming up.
go. I thought it was gonna be my phone. My phone literally has not stopped ringing or texting like nonstop. So anyway, thank you guys again, and we will see you guys very soon.
Bye.
Bye.